During this video, we will talk about an environmental problem related to sustainability or biodiversity that happens in our country. Before we explain what environmental problem we will talk about, we need to know what environmental problem means. So, an environmental problem or issues are defined as problems with the planet's systems, like water, soil, etc., that have developed as a result of human interference or mistreatment of the planet. Some examples of environmental problems or issues are global warming, deforestation, air and water pollution, overpopulation, nuclear issues, acid deposition, environmental disasters, volcanic eruption, greenhouse effects, and more. Another thing we need to know is what biodiversity means. Biodiversity is the variability among living organisms from all sources, including terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems, and the ecological complexes of which they are part. This includes diversity within species, between species, and of ecosystems.
On this video, we will focus on contamination problem. Contamination is the action or state of making or being made impure by polluting or poisoning. Contamination is subdivided into three main types. The first one is the biological, which includes the bacteria, the mold, the fungus, the parasites, viruses, and other toxins. The chemical that includes vapor, gases, moisture, and molecules. And the physical, which contains the fiber material, particles, chips from bill pressed to link. The causes of contamination are not just limited to fossil fuels and carbon emissions. There are many other types of contamination, including chemical pollution into bodies of water and soil through improper disposal practices and agricultural activities. The effects of contamination can be seen every day all around you. Contamination is destroying the environment, the ecosystems, the drinking water, and the human health. Pollution needs to be dramatically reduced because it is destroying the environment we live in, our food and water, causing diseases and cancers in human and wildlife, and destroying the air we breathe and the atmosphere that protects us from the harmful ultraviolet radiations. It is the responsibility for every living person to protect the environment, and with the population ever increasing, population problems are only going to get worse unless we do something about it.
Environmental pollution is currently one of the greatest problems the world is facing today. Approximately 40% of the rivers and 46% of the lakes are too polluted to swim, fish, or aquatic life to grow. Yeah? 1/3 of the topsoil is currently degraded, and at the current rate caused by improper agricultural and industrial practices, most of the topsoil will be degraded within 60 years. A high concentration of air pollution can cause an increase in heart attacks and breathing problems, such as coughing, wheezing, and asthma. Besides the effects on humans, environmental problems also occur, such as acid rain. Acid rain is caused by a high concentration of sulfuric and nitric acid. This type of rain damages the trees and increases the pH of soils and water bodies, making it difficult for living beings to grow. Man-made gases such as sprays are depleting the ozone layer. The ozone layer is in charge of reflecting the incoming UV rays and radiation from the outer space. Without it, life on Earth will be impossible. The effects of the water pollution depend on the location and the chemical compounds. Water bodies such as rivers and lakes near urban areas tend to have a higher concentration of legal and illegal chemical compounds and garbage. By far the greatest consequence of this type of pollution is the death of millions of aquatic creatures, which disrupts the entire food chain. Polluted soil and land can cause several types of health problems. such as respiratory problems, skin problems, and even some types of cancer. This because soil pollution is present in the fruits and vegetables we eat. Deforestation is one of the biggest problems when it comes to land degradation and soil erosion. This destroys several ecosystems and habitats, making it difficult for animals to survive.
Currently, the world is going through a huge problem of pollution, and most of this problem is caused by human-made actions, such as excessive use of cars, uncontrolled burning of fuels, factories, incorrect separation of wastes, among many others. That is why the predictions or the thesis of this topic is that if we stop burning fossil fuels and stop throwing away wastes in rivers, and humans start using reusable materials and putting into practice the 3R strategy, then the pollution will be extremely reduced. Restating our hypothesis that was that if we stop burning fossil fuels that are mostly used in cars, that if factories start throwing away their wastes in rivers, and if people start putting into practice daily the 3R strategy, then the levels of pollution will be extremely reduced. So, as a test of the hypothesis, is that there have been many actions that have been taken to reduce pollution, such as the conservation of energy at home, using steel water bottles and straws, the use of solar panels at homes, and many other renewable energy that currently exists, highlighting that all these actions have been of great help on the reduction of pollution rates. And in addition, there has been a global cooperation among more than 75 countries committing to take action on global warming, in which they commit to reduce their gas emissions by 2020 to less than 25%. And their statistics are starting to show results. Clean Air Act programs have lowered the levels of 6 common pollutants that are the particles, ozone, lead, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and sulfur dioxide. These air improvements have enabled many areas to meet quality air standards to protect the health and the environment all around the world.
Fade out. Fossil fade out is one of the strategies that we propose to implement in this experiment. So fossil fade out is the use of fossil fuels till it gets to zero. What are fossil fuels? For example, coal, oil, and natural gas. Fuels being zero by fossil fade out, we will try to achieve a cleaner environment by the reduction of the emission gases of carbon dioxide and other gases that are dangerous to the environment and the atmosphere. Plus, the contamination by acid rain will decrease exponentially. Now I'm going to talk about the triple R strategy. This strategy is very helpful to us. We all know it, we all saw it. It's reduce, reuse, and recycle. So, with this strategy, our plan is to reduce, reuse, and recycle all the extra materials that are lying in our home, such as plastic bags, PET, cardboard, or maybe aluminum cans. The triple R strategy, our goal is to reduce the production of contaminating materials of factories and reuse the materials that we already have in our home. So the last strategy we are going to be talking about is the limited use of motor vehicles. Some parts of the country already use it, like Ciudad de Mexico, where only certain days certain vehicles can be used. Well, in this case, it's pretty much the same thing, but more simplistic, less difficult. We're just going to be avoiding the use of vehicles and using more public transportation, such as trains, maybe taxis, and buses. The contamination will decrease by the less use of proper vehicles, and it will be much more helpful to the environment to do things like carpooling. Also, we don't specifically need to don't use a vehicle. We can also go in bike or bicycle. Maybe we should go walking. Some strategies that we may also implement to persuade people to follow our initiatives should be a point and reward system for when people reduce, reuse, and recycle, and we should also establish laws that must be sanctioned to encourage people to help us with the fossil burnout initiative.
In conclusion, our hypothesis was correct, because if we stop burning fossil fuels and all the contamination factors that were mentioned, such as reducing wastes, reducing deforestation in our forests and common areas, and starting using reusable materials for our daily life, the contamination will be lower and will affect less the air in our cities, in the rivers, and in all the things or places that make up our environment. With this project, we can conclude that reusing and recycling is a must for our environment on these days, because of the problem with the pollution and the contamination in our airs, rivers, and forests. Now, we are conscious that if we don't stop polluting, deforesting, throwing wastes into the river, burning fossil fuels in factories, and all the things that produce bad things to the environment, we will lose what we have. If we don't start making a change now, we will slowly start losing all the things that make up our environment and our habitats, like vegetation, clean air, etc. So if we don't start reducing our wastes now, then it will be too late. Thanks to this investigation, now we know that what will happen if we don't start making a change.